Maybe.
Reacher.
Oh, Reacher, yes.
Are you a Jack Reacher? Is it Jack Reacher?
Jack, yeah.
You're a Jack Reacher fanatic?
I really, really enjoy the show.
Did you read all the books like I did?
Not.
What?
No.
I see that, and I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. I was enthralled with the books.
Yeah, the show itself is very compelling in a lot of different ways.
So many ways.
Yeah, and it's just got a lot of the elements that I appreciate. And
I couldn't believe it that today, of all days, that I have you sitting in this chair, Tim Harrington. Everybody here with BeCrazyWell. Well, we're crazy well. He's really super crazy well. Tim Harrington. We'll tell you more about him in a second. So I'm looking at that going, what are the odds of you putting that name? And I've just started season 3.
Yeah, me too.
Right? Now, here's my rub. You may not know this because you didn't read the books.
Yeah.
When you start reading the books, it's obvious that he's like 6'7", massive hands, big guy. Yeah. And they did a movie of one of the books. Mm-hmm. No offense, Tom. I actually met you in the club called the Roxbury one night. You won't remember me. But we were eye to eye because that's how tall you are.
Yeah, I remember this controversy.
I'm like, wow. I mean, I was horrified. And I'm like, no, it doesn't translate.
No.
I don't care how strong or how smart or whatever, it does not translate. That his size is part of why he is the way that he is.
Yeah. No, I remember that when it came out because after I had watched the very first this Reacher series, not the movies that Tom did.
Yeah.
That they brought that up, and I was like, oh wow. Boy, was that a mistake.
It was a huge mistake.
Yeah, that was just not so out of balance.
So out of balance.
Yeah.
So you said something interesting just a second ago, and I want to follow up on it. You said it has all the elements that I love. So now I need to know what are those elements that, because you don't look like a TV watching guy.
Yeah, I am.
Is that true?
I'm definitely a TV watching person.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was
raised on TV.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
kid at home.
I was just going to say, that's neglect.
Yeah,
now you've just told me.
Yeah. Starting the morning cartoons.
Yeah.
Go to school, come home.
Yeah.
Afternoon, Three Stooges, Speed Racer.
Yeah.
The cartoons of my era.
Mm-hmm. And where was Mom and Dad?
Mom was working.
Mom's working. And where's Dad?
Dad is not sure.
Not sure.
Not sure.
Right.
Being crazy, not well.
Yeah,
somewhere.
being crazy, not well. All right.
Is my assumption.
So tell me the elements of this character, this story that had you so intrigued that you just put Reacher on.
I think it's really good storytelling to me, and the character is extremely compelling. And I was raised in an ethos of sort of horse sense, straight talk. My grandfather did business on a handshake. It was just, I will do what I say. I am a man of my word, a man of principle, and very passionate. And those kinds of things are very attractive to me, and I think they are to most people. When you have a character who is no bullshit, if I may say that.
Oh, please.
It's very refreshing. It's very
it's safe.
Powerful. Yeah.
It makes us safer.
It does. That's a great way to put it.
Right?
Yeah.
Physically,
absolutely.
emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, financially, sexually, it makes us safer.
Yeah.
When people say, I don't trust, I go, oh, well, if you actually acted on your principles, and I knew you were going to act on your principles, regardless of what it was going to do for you or against you, you're safer.
That's right.
I trust you.
Yeah.
And we're not living that way right now, Tim. But before we get into that, because I'm a huge fan of your social media and you as a person, we're going to get into that. I want to talk about your childhood. I want to talk about what happened, how it affected you, and then what you had to do to keep the good shit and heal the stuff that wasn't serving you. So give us a little background of Tim Harrington and what happened to you.
Yeah, I think, when I tell this story, I always start with, the original wound moment for me, as I recall it.
Yeah.
And that is mom and dad separated, dad lived somewhere else, and he would say, I'm going to come get you. And so that imagery is me standing at the screen door. And on this particular day, it's raining, so you can hear from where it turns off the main street, you can hear the tires on the pavement and the water. It makes that sound.
I remember that.
So it's faint, and then it gets louder, and it comes toward you. You're like, oh, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes. That's not him. And it goes. And I stood at the door from about 10 in the morning till about 3 in the afternoon.
How old are you?
I am probably, let me see, I am 7.
Wow.
Yeah. And that moment is so profound, because every time the car passed and did not stop, it was like being punched in the gut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only thing a 7-year-old can think of, I'm not good enough.
What's wrong with me?
If I was a better kid, he'd be pulling up right now with toys and, yeah.
So that's just the thread that goes through my life.
And how many siblings do you have at this
I
time?
have a younger brother. He's at that point, he's 2 years old. So he's
5 years difference.
Roughly.
Roughly.
4 or 5.
4 or 5, right. So I had a younger brother, 5 years, and an older sister. What's interesting, so you're even firstborn.
Yeah.
So the science about where the sibling is, most firstborns, or we should say firstborns, follow in the footsteps of the same gender parent more times than not. Not always, but because you come out and all you see is mom and dad. Oh, I'm following. They're the leaders. I'm there. Secondborn comes out and goes, we already got 3 of those. I'm going in the opposite direction. And I'll never be first. So if I'm never going to be first, I'm going to have to go find my own way to be special, or to be different. So you're firstborn.
Yeah. Yeah, when he was born, I remember my first act of defiance was to take a metal airplane that had a wind-up propeller and stick it in my hair. That was my first...
To get it all, and it all
to get attention.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because I had it really good for those.
That's
I had
right.
A good 4.5 years.
Yes, you were it. You didn't ask for this kid.
No.
You didn't ask for the separation, and you didn't ask for the kid, and maybe the kid made that happen more. It might have been
who
that.
knows? I mean, the story goes that my mom married my dad, had me, divorced him, and remarried him, and had my brother.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a little, chaos and sort of non-linear, which we talked about earlier, non-traditional beginnings in my family. It was always chaos. Always chaos.
Which makes us then crisis-oriented and needing chaos in order to feel alive or to actually feel calm. Yeah. I know that sounds weird to some people, that mine was also chaotic. Yeah. Therefore, I was tremendously anxious when things were calm.
Yeah, well, yeah. Absolutely.
Right? The shit hits the fan, I'm good. Yeah. I'm the first one knows what to do, I'm good. Yeah. And in fact, that makes me create chaos.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because now where did this all happen? Where are you living at this time?
I'm a Kansas boy. I was born in Hutchinson, Kansas, which is outside of Wichita, some miles, 30 miles or so. And so Kansas boy, Hutchinson, me, my brother, Wichita, because my mom moved from the smaller town to a bigger town for more opportunity. So that's where it all began. That's where it all started, was in that little town.
How do you go from Kansas? I mean, I went from north of Boston to here. Yeah. Kansas to Malibu?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
I'm just saying...
There's a way there. I can show you on GPS. I'm just saying,
not many people, though, make that.
No, but I mean, if you take, like, chaos and hope in a geographic and moving around and being unsettled and not feeling safe. Safe is a big, big word for me.
Yeah.
Big word for me, not only in my own life, but in how I educate and teach parents that they can't save their kid, but they can save their kid. They can change the relationship to the point where that kid, your relationship dynamic can be about safety, not about fixing, not about saving, or any of those other things that really aren't our responsibility. Yeah. Our responsibility is to create an environment where that kid feels safe.
That's right.
And so my greatest deficit became greatest void as a kid became my highest value, which is family and creating a safe environment.
How did you get to, so I want to hear the story, and you can pick any parts of it you want, because what you do now is about as important as it gets.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I mean, truly.
That is my platform and my premise.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you work with families and you help and you teach from a place of credibility because you were there. You had to learn this first. You had to do it. You are not hypocritical. And I have to say this with all due love and respect. I know a lot of therapists that are about as hypocritical as it gets. I can tell you to quit smoking, quit drinking, lose 100 pounds. I can go home and smoke a box of cigarettes or a carton of cigarettes, a gallon of wine, and eat a whole fucking cheesecake myself. Yeah. So I don't trust that when people are helping me do something, I need to know they did it or they're still doing it.
Yeah.
That's for me. And you've been there.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, I've been there a lot. And it's, I'm a contextualist. We talked about that earlier, the idea of appreciating every experience, every feeling from the beginning matters. It's honest, and I think it is true for all of us. A lot of us don't want to sort of go back and entertain the beginning. I work with very resistant clients. They want fixing, but they don't really understand the difference between a fix and a heal.
Well, they've been using drugs and alcohol for a fix.
Yeah, and I'm talking about the parents.
Yeah,
the parents are very, very, they're looking for relief, just like I was.
That's
my
right.
parents were looking.
Yeah, please, just
the
fix
same.
it. Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah, can you work with my son? And I go, I don't know. Are you able to change? That's my first question to them. Because if you're not able to change, I'm not going to torture your child and let him think that somehow it's his fault or her fault and that, mom's going to change or dad's going to change. I said, I'm not going to do that to him.
And I understand the level of frustration. By the time a parent gets to me, there's multiple treatments. It's just, I feel for them deeply. More so than ever, I went through all levels of care with my daughter, my oldest daughter. And so, I had my own treatment experience and my own experience with a relationship with vodka and cocaine for 16, 17 years.
I think people that use alcohol and cocaine are the smartest people. No, really. Think about it, right? Now, I used people, so my drug of choice were relationships and men.
Sure.
People, actually, I should say people, not just men.
Yeah.
So, I need to go up, I need to come down.
Yeah.
I'm really serious about this. If we can't talk about the drugs and the alcohol and what it does for us, how are we going to be able to replace it with something? How are we going to know what we need to do if we don't say, what does heroin do for you that's so great?
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly right. What problems is it solving for you?
Exactly. How does it make you feel? Like if you're ambivalent about living, heroin must be great because from not my experience, but from what I've seen and what you've told me is that it lets you practice dying without actually having to die. So you get to die for a little while and get that relief. Like, who says that, right? No one will say that, but that's what we need to say, and we need to understand. So when I say that you're one of the smartest people, because you were really looking to help yourself get up from the depression and down from the anxiety.
Well, that's the contrast, because if that's my internal world, if I know that I'm socially, physically, spiritually nihilistic, and I'm aware of this, I have an awareness, but the reflection from the outside is that I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh my gosh,
I'm being judged, shamed, and blamed and down because it feels better for them, because they can't reconcile that what I'm doing is I'm solving a problem for myself. Nobody ever says, what's the problem?
That's
they already know the problem.
And they don't even ask you where the problem came from. So not only are you solving the problem, if you happen to be a family member of someone who's self-medicating, helping to adjust themselves, you're the problem. You probably created the fucking problem. So I think that's such... gets me, gets my fear and sadness going, because then I see what we're doing to people and we wonder why treatment's not working and this isn't working and just say no. And I'm like, what? Really?
Well, yeah, it's so self-perpetuating and self-fulfilling, because in the current paradigm, in the macro narrative, it's very easy to just blame the patient.
So easy.
So it's not that our process is wrong or that our model is wrong or our premise is off. It's just that you're not doing it right.
That's right.
And I remember feeling that and thinking, I guess there's really no reason for us to have a connection or a relationship, because I already know what you're going to say.
Right.
You're not curious about me. You've already got me figured out.
And you might really start to believe it. which puts you closer to death, which is also unbelievably like crazy on our part, that when you berate and blame and shame and disconnect and punish, you're helping them move closer to death.
Yeah, and it is that thing, and I get this thing, and I had to deal with this thing. You know, I mentioned my daughter. I had to deal with that level of powerlessness, in the relationship of something that you love so much.
That's right.
There's nothing like that.
Nothing.
So my whole life had prepared me for that moment when that process started, when she was in her darkest times. And I had to be able to sit still. I had to regulate. I had to do all the things. I had to take my own advice.
Boy, consider that, everybody, taking your own advice,
That was
like
a
actually
powerful
doing
moment.
what you're telling other people to do as opposed to just telling people what to do.
Because I have lots of things to say. I have lots of, education and insight and all that stuff that I've gathered throughout my life, because this is my high value. I want to know how it is to be the father to this particular person in this particular time. I can't be the father of her future self or her past self. I have to be.
Say that again.
I have to be her father now in this moment, not her past self or her future self.
Right. Not your expectation of where you went right.
Or where I went wrong.
That's
That's the other part.
Yeah.
That parents get stuck in. And I always say the only perfect parents are the ones that don't have kids yet.
Oh my God. Isn't that it's a great line?
Yeah.
Perfect parents are the one that don't have
Because
kids
they
yet.
really will take it all on one way or the other. Either they're the savior
Yeah. Yeah.
or they've ruined everything.
Yeah, or the perpetrator and protector.
Yeah.
Oh, think about that. You got to choose one, people, because I tried to do both. And yeah, I remember, and this is one thing that I think we all do. So when we have a child that's struggling, one of the things that we do is first get mad at them, control, and like this. And then if we do finally wake up that we had a part in this, then we make it about us and we crumble and cry and, I'm so sorry. It's like, oh, good, now you're going to make it about you again.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, this is the story.
Yeah. So how about being the parent that that she deserves or he deserves right now, this minute, and you can clean up your shit past if you want later, and you can now start working on being the parent that they deserve at this moment.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I'll just take me for example. It's like I had to, in order to be the person that she needed in her darkest moment, I had to go through everything that I went through, working on my relationship with myself, the war that was going on inside of me. Right? And that's what every parent sort of brings, because we're at a point where they're just acting out the inheritance of their own experience as a child and with their parents.
Yeah.
So I don't have high expectations, but I also don't frame it in a way that makes them feel worse. I don't do what was done to me. I don't blame, shame, and judge. I don't label, you're a codependent, you're an enabler. None of that stuff. It's not helpful. What I do try to remind them, at wherever you are right now, whatever you feel, you have the greatest influence, the most influence
Absolutely.
over this person. So think about that, and let's just think about what we can do today to make that influence so impactful that that person feels a little bit safer than they did a minute ago.
Oh, you're such a breath of fresh air on so many levels, Tim, because I get so frustrated with our own rehabilitation community, our own clinical community, and I'm hopeful only because at one time we used to drill holes in people's heads.
Yeah.
So I'm a little hopeful that we can continue to grow and change now that we know more about child development, we know more about trauma, and we know about post-traumatic wisdom and post-traumatic growth. Let's talk about the great shit that you get from some of this trauma as well. Yep. And so I'm a little more hopeful as people like you, though. And what's hard is you have to be a disruptor to say what you're saying. And then it's hard because people have already been indoctrinated to believe, go to treatment, do this, do that. And I was a clinical director of a treatment program. The only thing I did was walk in with horse shit on my shoes and and sit down and eat dinner with them and bring in a sweat lodge and a farm and everything else. But I still, I was in it. And I think that what you're saying about parents is so important. There isn't anything worse than losing your child. And you have been shaken to your core because at any time that child could have died, your daughter could have died. And we now know that we actually discovered 40 years ago, 2 psychologists sat in on a support group for parents who had lost a child. Rich Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun. I often talk about this because it's so important. And they heard the worst grief in the world. And they heard all of this strength that these parents were able to learn and gain from the loss of their child, and then how to make it impactful for themselves, the rest of the children, the rest of the world, and that's post-traumatic growth.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're part of that, and I want to hear a little more about your journey, because you said you were a late parent, and I keep thinking, did you leave them at the library? What does that mean? You're a late parent.
Thankfully, no.
So tell us your journey of your own struggle, and then how you got to have this wonderful daughter and maybe others.
Yeah. So, wow, so weird. I haven't shared my story in a while, but I think what's most poignant is that, there was that family environment that never really felt safe or settled. And I remember, this just came to mind, the parent-child relationship this is what it looked like for me. We need to have a talk. So we would go into the living room, my parents would sit on the couch, and I would sit on this chair across from them. And I remember, I can feel it right now, my head would get very heavy, and it would feel hot in anticipation of whatever they were going to say to me, because what my brain is telling me and my feelings are telling me is, you're a hypocrite. That's what I kept coming up in a loop. I'm going to listen to you?
Exactly.
Like, you're the one who's telling me this? And I understand why Charles Schulz created the voice of parents.
Yes.
Wah, 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 because that's ultimately what was coming out of their mouth.
Right.
And I was in that moment, I am the product of that kid, 7-year-old, standing at the screen door, wondering what's wrong with me. And so I'm being reminded over and over again that I'm not measuring up. So it's being reinforced. Right? Through normal parenting, through tough love, through sort of like take my advice, I'm not using it kind of thing. Right? And so that's all very contrary. And kids are smart.
Oh my God,
kids
they're
are
so smart.
Insightful.
And they know you're lying.
They know you're lying. They know that something's off. And all. We're such important little beings, but we're also we're not appreciated. We're just not.
Not at all. You're not honored.
We're not honored. We're not appreciated. We're not affirmed. We're not valued. Not in the way that we need to in order to grow up somewhat adjusted.
Yeah,
somewhat.
We only need somewhat.
There's a lot of other. We only need somewhat.
We only need somewhat.
We need one person. I heard this. Somebody said we need one person who believes in us 100% of the time.
That's all we need. That's why sometimes foster kids work. That's why sometimes the worst trauma at all, and the kid is okay because there was that one person.
There was that person.
All right, so you're this child.
So I'm sitting there, and I am accomplished at that point in sport. I found a place of that I could be important.
What sport?
I could be rewarded. Soccer.
Okay. Yeah. That's a little ahead of it being really.
Well, we moved to Texas, and in Dallas in 1970, the National North American Soccer League was in full effect. Some of the greatest players in the world had come over, and they formed a league. It was the Dallas Tornado, San Antonio Thunder, New York Cosmos, Pele, the world's greatest player, played there, so on and so forth. So it kind of had a birthing then.
Right.
It didn't straight line shoot up, but there were 400,000 youth soccer players in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the 1970s. And this is the birthplace of Pop Warner football, right? And football was the king.
That's right. That's not real football.
That's not football. And we joke because football you play with your hands and soccer you play with your feet. But my point is that the reason why soccer took off when it was being promoted and being introduced to everyone, it was always there, was because it's way less expensive.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
that was a factor in
That's
getting your child involved in sports. Not everybody could afford all the pads and
Right,
all
right.
whatever Pop Warner cost was way more than soccer. Anyway, so I had acumen. I got accolades. I was recruited to play in Europe, to be on development teams, and all of that. That was my escape. That was my first drug.
Absolutely.
100%. The first coping mechanism was me being able to, from the moment I woke up till the moment I went to bed, in some way I was carrying a ball, I was juggling a ball, I was obsessed with juggling. I could juggle 1,000 times as a small child. I won competitions. Pepsi actually started competitions around soccer skills. But the point is that when I looked back on it, when I finally got into discovery, I call it, I realized that was my first escape, my first obsession.
Yeah.
100%. And it saved my life.
Absolutely.
100% saved my life.
I can't tell you how many athletes I sit with, because I work with an organization that deals with athletes, that will tell you over and over and over again how much that sport saved their lives from their childhood.
It was my escape from all of whatever the chaos was, you know, the new family, the new marriage, the new stepbrothers, and all whatever comes with people who are in charge making their decisions.
We're using that loosely.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But it got to the point where, you know, things got crazier and more chaotic, and there was another divorce, and there was a lot of pain in that one because I was older, and it was sort of it's compound interest, basically.
That's right.
And I remember hanging out with another friend who had the actual opposite family life. He had a very stable home. He had a wonderful mother and an attentive father, and I used to go over there, and I was like, what is this place?
Right.
You know, like, what is this not craziness over here in a different way? And him and I smoked a joint and drank some blackberry brandy.
How old?
I'm going to say 12, maybe 12, something like that. And I remember very distinctly that we both had very different reactions to the same thing. Me, I was like, let's do more. And he was like, no.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of, that was the introduction to this other relationship. Because I'd say my first love was with soccer, my first loving relationship, because it worked on that part of my brain.
That's right.
It made me feel good. And then the second one became, now I'm in a threesome. Now I've got soccer, I have drugs, alcohol and other drugs, and I have me. So we're in a threesome. And then I remember slowly but surely alcohol and other drugs took more and more of my time as I got older.
Well, yeah,
High
because
school.
you can't, the effects of soccer can only last so long.
Yes.
Because then when you go to school, you go back in the house, you're going to get that flinch response, you're going to get that stress response thing, and you can't just go out and play soccer again to get that high and the oxygen.
It was different, but I was changing too. I was getting more and more angry.
Oh, good.
And as a team player, I started to realize that, you know, I was not a very good team player because my anger got in the way. Whether I was complaining or being angry at somebody else.
Your house wasn't a team.
No, there was no teamwork going on.
There's no teamwork going on at all.
I put all the pressure on myself and the game, and I scored a lot of goals, but I wasn't making a lot of friends.
Yeah. Well, I'd be pissed at all of them because as far as your perspective must have been, you guys aren't working hard enough. Like all that resentment that you wanted to yell at your parents for. Why the fuck aren't you doing your job? Why aren't you taking care of me? Like, this is ridiculous what you're putting us through. That's just going to have to come out somewhere. So coming out towards your team makes
towards my teammates, towards the coach, towards the referee, and whoever was sort of in my way or in my line of sight.
Or pretending to be the authoritarian, you know, the authoritative person, right? Which is what your first one was, were your parents. So think about that.
Yeah.
So then what?
So then, you know, it got to the point where I was a junior, maybe a senior, first semester senior year in high school, and I went out to dinner with my mother and my stepfather, who was a very accomplished academic and a successful doctor. So he was a 4.0 student in college, went on to medical school, excelled, became a rheumatologist of some renown, and was very, very focused and knew what he wanted to do from a very young age. I'm not that person. So we're having dinner, and I remember him saying, "So where are you thinking about going to school?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." And he goes, "Well, you're never going to amount to anything."
Oh,
I'll never forget it. And I was kind of like, "Whoa, that's kind of harsh." Really?
he's creating rheumatology by giving, your immune system a shot, and oh my God.
I was just in shock. And also
Educated
in some
people.
way, there was another part of me that received it kind of like, well, maybe he's right.
Well, of course, because you're still at the screen door at that point.
Still at the screen door. That's the line that just keeps on going. And so a friend of mine called me, and I ended up going to the school he was at. He graduated. He was our goalie on the high school team. He graduated. He said, "Why don't you just come up here?" I was like, "Okay." So I didn't really have any investment. I had no skin in the game. I just didn't have anything else to do.
Right.
And I did get rejected from the University of Wisconsin to play on the Badgers, which is where I thought I was going to go. And I just didn't have good enough grades. That was the bottom line. That was literally it. I was a C student. And so I was hurt. I was
You're a
disappointed.
C student while you're doing drugs and alcohol. I just wanted to
Yeah,
find
yeah.
out how smart
Yeah, that's
you are.
true. That's
I mean,
true.
really think about it.
That's
right?
true.
In
That's true.
context, like
Yeah, I
your
can
brain's
appreciate
pretty-
that now. But,
yeah.
The feedback was not so great back then. That was not. Average is not what we are in this
Right,
family.
right.
So anyway, my use got compounded in college. It was very permissive, of course, and there's whatever's going on freshman year is pretty crazy. But it just all kind of just snowballed, and I ended up taking about 6 years to get through college. I cheated a lot through my college. I just got worse. I was so unhappy. I was so sad. I was so frustrated. And the only thing that seemed to work was vodka and cocaine and whatever I could do to solve the problem of what I thought was the problem at that time which was just I just can't feel this. I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
This is terrible. And one thing led to I got out of school and I ended up going to Minnesota because I was in love with a girl from Golden Valley, which I always say when I say it should be a country song. Maybe I'll write it someday.
That's
but
right, yeah.
I followed her up there, and she was trying to get away from me, actually. Go figure, I didn't see that sign. But eventually I did read it. She got another boyfriend. And so it was just, again, I call it compound interest because I just kept feeling worse and worse and worse and worse and more lost and more powerless in terms of how I was going to turn this around. Because it felt like I was turning around the Titanic because I weighed so much. I felt the weight of so much, and I was just sad, so sad. And I want to say this because, maybe this is why I didn't become a therapist, but I did finally get a therapist when I was in Minnesota. My mom finally convinced me. I know. Well, you will when you hear this story.
Yeah.
I went, and then I went one time, and he had completely disappeared. He wasn't in the office. Like, it was gone. And here's this person who is a male. So it was kind of like this moment of like, wow, okay. So
I'm not even a good enough client.
Exactly.
I'm not even worth therapy.
Exactly.
He had to run away from me.
Yeah. Wherever he went. I don't know where he went. It didn't matter. He could have had real problems.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. Not in that moment. I was just like.
Could have left a note on the door.
That's what I mean. Like anything. Just anything. Give me a little bit, right?
Never ceases to amaze me.
Right? And so, I kind of was like, therapy was never going to be a part of my life after that. I had a pretty big resentment. But then, I finally, I was like, I got to get out of Minnesota. So I went to visit my brother who lived in Hermosa Beach at the time. He graduated from Moraga.
That's how you got here.
He went to school in Moraga and played soccer up there. He was doing things that I didn't get to do. So our relationship was a bit strained, only because I was jealous. But he ended up down here in Hermosa, and I came out to visit in January. And I remember standing on the strand in Hermosa Beach, and it was like 80 degrees, and there's, the girls on roller skates. And it's like,
that's right.
It's just perfect, right? It's going to fix me. And so 6 months later, I moved because he wasn't going to live there, and I wasn't. That was just not going to be in the cards. So I ended up moving there. Fast forward to a couple of years into Manhattan Beach is where we moved. A couple of years into that, there was an intervention, and I went to treatment. because I was just, I was just.
How old are
was
you
not-
at that
I
time?
am. God, how old am I? That is such a good question. It was 1997. I don't even know. 30 something maybe.
So you've been in it for a long time.
Yeah.
And it took.
Yeah.
Why do you think that took? You called it discovery.
Yeah,
as
well,
opposed
that
to
actually
recovery.
didn't take. I had to go further. I had to figure some more stuff out, but it wasn't much longer after that.
Okay,
it wasn't much longer.
Okay.
But it was. I still was.
But that's still a pretty good.
I'm still trying to pick up myself, pull myself up by my bootstraps. I'm bought into that.
Well,
I
you're
should
testing
be able
it.
to.
Then
I'm
you just
testing.
went out and tested it for a
Yeah.
while, right?
Yeah.
And said,
Yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
think this is gonna
Yeah.
actually be better.
Yeah. And
Well-
so 1998, I moved to Colorado, and I opened a restaurant.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, I opened a Thai restaurant, and
Wait.
that killed me, but also rebirthed me.
restaurant?
Yeah.
Why Thai? Like when?
Well, I love Thai, and there was no Thai. The closest Thai was like 90 miles away, and I was really upset about that.
That's amazing.
And so I
you
went
did
to somebody who was already in the restaurant business and said, we need a Thai restaurant here. And so we did it. Jammed at home, as I like to say. Everybody said, don't do it. And I said, perfect, we're doing it.
that.
'Cause-
In Denver or where?
no, in Aspen, Colorado. Yeah.
Okay. Been to Aspen. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Worst place in the world. If you're going to open a restaurant, that
Yeah.
couldn't be a more worse place.
Yeah.
Because 75% of restaurants fail.
Yes.
In there, it's like 85. So I really had to prove something. And I think that's also something that's in me, is I'm trying to prove
Oh, well, of course.
that I can figure this out. That
Yeah.
I can figure it out. But anyway, so it almost killed me, but it also rebirthed me, because that got me back to California.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother said, you can stay with me as long as you stay sober, which I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up becoming mobile homeless in Malibu. This is where
that's
Malibu
just
comes
a
in.
cliche. Come on now.
Well,
Tim.
I said, if I'm going to be homeless, it's going to be Malibu. So I drove up and down PCH, and I would sleep in my car,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out what was going to be my next move. And all those things, while I was doing it, I was like, I kept judging myself so harshly, as we do. I couldn't
Well,
get
you
a
were
leg
trained
up.
well to do that.
I couldn't get a leg
You
up.
had a doctor tell you that you're not going to amount to anything.
Exactly.
You had your own dad not see any value in you, so you didn't have to show up.
Exactly. The case was pretty.
And mom picked a couple of other people over you. She had to, because she needed something for herself.
That's
And
right.
so, yeah, you were indoctrinated, and you bought it hook, line, and sinker.
I did. And I remember the first time somebody said to me, when I sort of changed my perspective a little bit, and they said, you've survived 100% of your hardest days so far.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good record. And I'm
That's a
like,
good
I would never have ever thought of that on my own.
No.
Not even close.
So you're in Malibu in your car,
Yeah.
and you're the kid from Kansas. I'm the kid from Upper Boston going, oh, my God, I'm in Malibu. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
you're older,
Crazy.
too. You were
Yeah,
now...
in my 30s. I'm like 36, 37.
Yeah, I was like 42 or
Yeah.
something. So I was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, and I felt so isolated and so lonely, because here I am and I can't figure out how to do this. I can't figure out the combination. And I'm old. I'm washed up. Like,
I know.
This is not working. And maybe it's just not supposed to work for me. That's really
What
kind of where
changed
it
that?
lies.
What was the inciting moment that...
Somebody called on my phone. This is back in the days of
The phones were like
phones
this big
were
or
the
something.
big. Mine was a Motorola Flip, I think, or something. And I remember getting a call from a guy who said, and this still I haven't been able to figure out. I hear that you're living in your car, and I'm like, how did?
Oh, Malibu's kind of like that.
Well, it was just so bizarre. I still haven't figured out how they did that. But they said, well, you don't need to live in your car. Come stay with me. And I'm like, okay, well, it's been 14 days, and I'm sleeping in the front seat of my, Honda Civic, 1994 Honda Civic, which has dents all over it because I didn't fix it. I just took the insurance money and bought drugs.
Yeah.
Why would I fix it?
Yeah, why would you...
They're
Yeah.
giving me a check for whatever. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of tired. I need a break. I'll go and stay at his house. And so I did. And I remember being there, and I'm trying not to use at this point. I'm not using.
yeah.
I'm basically stealing insurers from CVS
Yeah.
just to keep some kind of nourishment in.
Sure.
And so I'm at his house, and he's still running and gunning. Him and his partner in crime. They're like doing blow and drinking and going out to clubs in fucking LA and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, why did I pick this? Why did I say yes, I would live here? But it turns out to be great because it's actually, it's making me feel better about my decision not to use because it's not looking good to me right now.
Yeah.
And so I decided that in my wisdom that I would go to the meeting that I went to because I went to treatment and I went to a few meetings on the west side of LA and that's all I knew. So I drove from Los Feliz all the way to Santa Monica because I wasn't going to go to a meeting I didn't have any familiarity. I just couldn't do that in my body. I just couldn't do it. So I went to the last house on the block, 26th and Broadway.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. The last house on the block. It was perfectly fitting.
That's exactly right.
Perfectly fitting. And so I went in there, and I remember I get there, and I'm about somebody said to me one time. You seem like you've lost a lot of weight, and you're colored blue-gray. So I'm not really looking great or feeling great. It's all there. I'm the full package. And this girl comes up to me, and she says, "Will you read chapter 5?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding? You've got to be out of your fucking mind." Fuck you. I was so mad.
You still have that anger in you.
I was so pissed that I got picked. I mean, there's tons of people around. And she picked me. And so, I couldn't disappoint her. So I said yes. And if you know this room, they have these can lights in this podium, and the can light is about this far away from you. So there's heat coming out of it. Right at me. I am fucking sweating. I'm sweating. I'm feeling like, what am I doing here? I can't even believe I need to fucking drink more than I've ever needed in my life. As I'm standing in front, about to read chapter 5. It's perfect. So I'm reading it. I don't really remember much of it at all. It was an out-of-body experience for sure. And I remember when I was done, everybody clapped.
Oh my God.
And I know now, in hindsight, that means what it means. And that was a very, it was impactful because they saw my struggle, not because I was incredible.
That's the person we were talking about who believes in you 100%.
Yeah.
You had a bunch of strangers go, "No, you can do this. Yeah. We got you."
So that was a moment.
Yeah.
That was a moment. That was a teeny conversion moment at that moment. And then I remember somebody came up and, people were giving me your numbers.
So how'd you meet your wife and become a dad? Where did that come from?
Oh my God, that was 2001. So,
So not too far, like we're 1998. So 2001 is 3 years later.
I found a group of people to run with. That's what saved my life. I went to a men's meeting it wasn't even a meeting, it was just a men's luncheon on 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
At Mario's, and it just enveloped me. I don't even know. It's hard for me to even explain because I couldn't tell you. I was so stressed that I don't have a great memory of it because of stress.
Tim. So one of the things I love doing is putting together. You have a team now. You just said a men's team, a luncheon. You were so much a soccer guy for so long. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there was some part of that made sense.
Yeah, there's
to me
at least a little essence of, I know this.
Plus, I can fake the camaraderie.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I can mask like nobody's business.
Sure.
I have.
Well, that's what we had to do because our unstable people in our house, we had to figure out what we needed to say, do, or whatever. So we've become great actors, great liars. I could have been a triple agent. Fuck, double agent. I was already into triple. Right? The trouble is I didn't know who I was.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what happens, though. So then when all that, I don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. I was like, oh, shit, I'm like parchment paper, I'm like tissue paper.
Yeah.
So
I remember, so what happened was I ran with this group. We went to 270 meetings in 90 days.
Wow. How did you even do that?
Because we were trying to prove a point.
Right.
And plus, none of us had anything else to do.
Yeah.
None of us were employed. We were unemployable. We were all just, So we went, some days we went to 4 meetings a day. One day I think we went to 5 because somebody put a 1:15 meeting on Vine and somewhere over in Hollywood.
This has got to be a movie.
It was so crazy. It was so. It was like
the best Kang movie I've ever heard.
It was the time of my life.
Yeah.
It really was. I was a part of an entourage. We laughed. We we thought that nicotine plus caffeine equaled protein. That's what we used to joke. Because we would smoke cigarettes and drink coffee fucking all day long.
Oh my God.
From meeting to meeting, bad donuts, whatever was on hand. And it was the greatest time of my life. I felt loved, supported. I felt I wasn't judged, shamed, and blamed that I remember. And it was just that. And in that process, I want to get to Robin, because Robin is also a person who changed my life. And I was at a meeting. I was at the log cabin.
Yeah.
And at this point, I think I have 2 years, maybe 2.5 years in recovery. And I'm just kind of bored at this point.
Well, isn't
I'm
that
also
funny?
working in treatment, by the way. But,
okay.
But I'm bored, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm kind of daydreaming, and I hear this voice out of my left ear, and it's this beautiful accent. Like, I don't even know what the accent is, but it's a female voice, and it is beautiful. I'm like, what? And I'm like, don't look over, don't look over, don't look over. It's so cliche. You're just going to look over, and you're going to stare at this girl. You've done it before, blah, blah, blah. So I don't. And then all of a sudden, my friend next to me, he hits me on the arm. He's like, dude, why are you not looking at her? So I did. I looked at her, and she was beautiful. I was like, oh no, this is not good. So I'm having this internal conversation, which is, don't go over to her. Don't say, I really love what you said. Don't do any of that bullshit. And I'm like, so I didn't. And then a friend comes up to me and goes, you want to go to breakfast with some friends of mine? And I said, yes, that would be great. And then he says, well, let me introduce you.
Oh.
And it was her.
That was it?
And that was it.
Where was the accent from?
Australia.
I lived there for a year and a half.
I love Australians, by the way. I mean, they're some of my favorite people in the world.
Like, we have no money. We just got there. They put all our money in a bank, and they forgot it was the 3-day weekend, and we're in a pub. And we got $1.25 to our name, my husband and I. This is 1971.
Oh, wow.
And I'm crying and going, we're not going to eat for 3 days. And, and he's going, it's all right, honey. And he's drinking a beer. Like, you're going to spend our money on a beer. And then a table of Australian people come over and give us $5. They say, hey, mate, we just heard your story. Don't worry about it. Here, take 5 and go, give us your number, give us your phone number. We'll bring it back to, because we're going to be able to get our money out on Tuesday. And they went, oh, no.
Don't worry about it. No worries, mate. That's what
No
they say.
worries, mate.
No worries.
That was my first week in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I love them more. I mean, obviously, I got to visit and her family and everything, but that was the beginning of, the journey of the long
So
relationship.
you have a marriage built on discovery, which I'm going to start using that, but give you credit for it.
Yeah.
I never understood recovery because I didn't want to recover what I had, because whatever I had was not good.
No.
So I'm not recovering anything.
No.
I'm actually I'm not even recreating. I'm creating is what I'm doing. I'm finally creating the person I deserve to be and the life I deserve to live based on principles.
Yes.
Not my thoughts, not my feelings.
That's right.
So to me, it's like, I'm in creativity. I'm not in
it is a creative experience. It's innovation. I say to parents, I say, this, I know the way it feels, but it's really an opportunity to innovate. Whatever is going on in your world and your system. Right. Because you're entitled to that. You deserve that. You get to reimagine what this system looks like. Yeah. So that's a good segue, because, Robin and I are married 20 years. We've got 2 beautiful kids, 2 daughters. I got daughters, of course. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, I'm grateful. They're the most amazing teachers. I have problems, as somebody said in the meeting, I have problems in areas I never wanted areas. Yeah, in my life. That's right.
Well,
I didn't want any of it. I wanted none of it.
I know. I have one daughter. She was like 5. Like, she's just such a force of nature that, it was. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
No. I'm the luckiest. I'm the luckiest person I know. For me, from where I sit, and so it just carried on. We have learned the most lessons. I have learned the most lessons in my life from being in a committed relationship. I'm a loyal person. That's one of, I can be loyal to a fault sometimes. I have to learn that.
Well, you have a high tolerance for bad behavior because you had to in your family. Yeah. And actually that makes me a good mental health coach, because you can be really fucked up and I'm okay with it. Because I was there, right? I had my own, but I lived with a whole bunch of people like that. Yeah. So I can tolerate it. And, that's sort of one of the joys of coming from a screwed up family is you can sit with them.
I'm so grateful now. I mean, it's ridiculous how all of that, when I say to families, whatever your record is, whatever your perceived record or whatever somebody's feeding back to you, believe me, you think it matters, and it does, but just not in the way you think it does.
That's right.
And so you really have, this is such an opportunity. That's really what I spend most of my time, is trying to empower them in a way that says, oh yeah, this doesn't have to be the way it is. I don't have to fight.
That's right.
I don't have to fight to defend myself as a parent. I don't want that in our relationship. You don't have to do that.
That's exactly.
I know you love and care for your child.
Yeah.
This is very much and specifically and hyper personalized in the sense of how do you love and care for them based on who they are right now. Right. So you can, again, going back to your influence, so you can spend that currency, that emotional currency, in a way that gets you really what you want. Because I don't believe you've been led down the path of getting what you want.
Yeah.
Wherever all these family programs you've gone to, all these family weekends, if they all worked, we wouldn't be talking.
Oh, exactly. That's
so
exactly right.
That's okay. So take what you've learned, and you need more than any, just like your child needs, is some sense of self-compassion, some sense
you deserve it.
Yes,
I always
you're
say
entitled.
You deserve it.
Yeah, you do.
Right?
You totally do.
You deserve it.
Yeah, and so this has been my journey has been to understand where I came from, what I've shared with you, so that I can be the absolute most influential person in my kid's life, which I am, but now I'm doing it intentionally, not just accidentally.
Oh, say that word again.
Intentionally. I am an intentional person because for so long I wasn't. I know what it's like not to be.
Excellent.
At least I guess I was in certain areas, but you know what I mean. It's like I felt like it was such a gift. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had that ability until all the trauma caught up with you, and you had. And so it's interesting that for the parents you work with, one of the things they don't get to do is to find out that post-traumatic growth. Yeah. They don't get to find out what they're good at too.
That's right.
And what they have. So when you said the word empowerment, I'm on this kick now about, words matter. Yeah. I spell it I-N.
Empowerment.
Power within. How about encourage? How about encourage? The courage within.
Yes.
Enjoy. How about enjoy? Be in the joy.
That's perfect.
It's all yours. You can take them as much as you want. I want to talk about, well, first of all, when we post this, what you have a website?
I do.
Called?
Well, it's changed.
Oh,
just
good.
Rebranded,
You're keeping change.
It's the same address that I've had for a long time, Family Addiction Recovery, but it's really...
Say it again, a little
FamilyAddictionRecovery.net is the website.
Okay.
But it's really changed to the point of everything that we've talked about has come around to like, how can I change my positioning to where we can make family this something that is legacy related. And that means you can be intentional about being a family wherever you are in the process, whether you're dealing with a struggling person or you're a new family. You can have a plan. It doesn't have to be all reactive.
That's right.
Because the reason self-help exists is because of reactivity, not because of proactivity. I need help now because...
I love proactivity.
Proactive is our right as a family system.
Yeah.
So to back it up, or even to meet you where you are with a struggling kid, now is the opportunity.
Yeah.
To have a long-term plan, like a financial plan, have an emotional wealth plan.
To actually invest in yourself.
Invest.
Invest in yourself. Make an investment.
And put it in your budget.
Right. Even if you didn't get that investment. So one of the things I appreciated about my discovery and my creating of the person I deserve to be was this idea of investing in me. Oh, I know how to invest in everybody else.
That's right.
Right? And which made me just a bigger hypocrite. I love this idea now that if I don't invest in me, I wouldn't trust me. That's number one. It's that old, put your oxygen mask on first and then on your smartest child next.
Right.
but it's, that point is that when I start to invest in me and change and do, my child is actually going to trust me more. If I just keep trying to change them, then who am I? I'm just another hypocrite, and I'm constantly telling you that you were wrong. And so, and when I invest in me, it means I'm worth it. So if I'm a parent that doesn't believe I'm worth it, I can't help my child believe that they're worth it.
That's right.
So I have to do that. And that's a lifelong practice. So I know people talk about tools, and that I'm convinced that it's about practices.
Yes.
You know, there's one thing that said, practice these principles in all your affairs.
Yeah.
Well, I had a couple of affairs. I don't recommend them. But anything else you can practice in.
Yeah.
So when I changed over from thoughts and feelings,
Yes.
and, you know, the fear and sadness that was driving me, and I started to invest in practicing my principles.
Yeah.
So when I had to make a decision or make a reaction, if it didn't fit those 3 principles, I'm like, can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it. And what I love is that the minute I started those practices, much like soccer practice, I got better. Yeah. I still have some crazy thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
Always will.
Always.
I have them. Especially have them at night. You know, it's that whole time at night I'm going,
Oh, yeah.
where did
Yeah,
that
yeah.
come from?
Right.
And then I just go, oh, well, good for you. At least you're thinking something.
Yeah.
You know? But I
normal.
don't act
It's
on them.
normal.
Exactly. It's normal. I just don't react to them. I don't believe all of them. I don't trust all of them. And I certainly then just go, whatever. That's when whatever is good.
Yeah.
You know, that's
I
when
like
that
whatever.
one. Yeah, whatever. Like to myself, whatever, because
Yeah, because the mind has a mind of its own.
exactly,
So
it's a bad operating system I was given. You know, it hasn't been updated for like years, so I can't trust it all the time. I can trust my changing though. And you and I have done something that's very remarkable around here. We've let our hair grow gray.
Yeah.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful because there's no one in Malibu that has great hair.
Grateful.
Yeah, grateful.
grateful.
Oh, that's what
There we
we're
go.
gonna. Can we start
Words
a group?
matter.
Can we start a group called Grateful?
Grateful. Yeah.
Oh,
Grateful.
please.
Yeah, I love that.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I never forgot that. And now I need to talk about one more thing
Yeah.
because you're one of the few people that I follow on social media that talks about. So I don't want to talk about politics. I think that's so weird.
Yeah.
I want to talk about community.
Yeah.
Country and community.
Yeah.
Like we are a community.
Yes.
And one of the things my stepfather was Native American, Black, and Italian. Such a great family. And
Amazing.
I learned about council.
Yeah.
And council's when people all sit around that are part of a community and they can't leave the fire until they come to an agreement. An agreement that everybody can live with. And the men have a lot to say one at a time. No one ever talks over anybody. No one ever says anything about someone saying, much like an Al-Anon meeting. And then the women, they look over to the women and they go, you know, this is what we've come up with. And if the women go, they go back to the council again.
God, I
if the
love
women
that.
go, then it's all done, right? It's done. So I want to talk to you because I have to keep facing my own fear and sadness. I'm at the latter part of my life. I don't know. I hope I live to 100, and I don't know, but I'm going to be 75 March 1st. Wow, pretty proud of that. Awesome. And I'm boxing and everything else. And I'm probably the most scared I've ever been.
Yeah.
And I'm scared because of the lack of principles.
Yeah.
I can deal with anybody liking something that I don't like and believing something I don't believe because they believe it. But once the principles are put on the table in the agreement that we're all going to at least make some sacrifice in order to be safe. Oh, we've just gone full circle.
That's right.
And we'll be honest. So we'll own our shit. We'll be honest even if we don't agree. I so appreciate how you handle your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings about what's happening right now in this community of ours. And I'm going to keep saying community. I'm not going to talk politics.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it.
So tell me, how did you decide to do that?
That's the foundation of good parenting.
It is.
That's what it is.
Oh, so we
I
got to
talk to everybody
reparent our
the same
country.
way. Yeah. It is a reparenting exercise, for sure. And I am, yes, community systems, family. I love the idea of making family something we invest in. something that we point to as an organizing
And
principle.
family in the biggest sense,
Yes.
not in the
Doesn't
dad, mom, kids. Yeah.
no, because family is this organizing principle of people with different points of view,
different
right?
generations.
Different values.
Yep.
And yet it doesn't have to blow out because of that. You can get closer because of that.
Right.
You can improve and enhance bonds through differences. They don't have to be the thing that blows people apart. It can be the thing that you get to learn from. Not to just judge and to shut down and to silence, because there's a hierarchy in families that says that, those famous sayings. What's the one? Because I said so.
Oh.
Because I said so. There's no principle in that.
There's no principle in that.
That is dominating control. That's
right.
not
That's right.
a conversation or a collaboration. That's not community. That's not family.
That's right.
So I love the idea of family finding something out about themselves through the process of intentionally investing in emotional health, having it be in your budget, having you understand it in context on how empowering that can be, not only for what is close to you, but also what goes out from you.
Yes.
So a family can be an agent of change, connected, and then influence the community at whole as you go out and you tell your story of how you as a family who was blowing apart,
Okay.
who was not healthy, who was putting the fun in dysfunctional.
Yeah, right.
And you decided intentionally that we're going to make something of this. We're going to decide what this family means to us. That's what we did. We decided, because a family's it's kind of nebulous,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
Give it form and function. Like a business, decide what your mission is, what your values are,
Yeah.
what your vision is, what your mission is. Decide. You get to do that. You get to do that in a powerful way, because what you're doing is you're creating people that will go out into the world and influence in a way that says, wow, this is really how you build community. You build community through affirmation and value.
That's right.
You the first thing you say is, I hear you, I see you, I value you. I may not agree with what you're saying, but that's not the fucking
That's
point.
not the fucking point. That's not the fucking
point
point.
is that your value, if we keep doing this, people forget of their inherent value
Yes.
as just being born of this earth.
So I have a really important last question, and then you can talk about anything you want to say, share before we end. Because this is just the first time I'm talking to you. It is not going to be the last.
Yeah.
When you meet somebody, either a member of the family, that has been so traumatized that they are constitutionally incapable of being honest, safe, that the only thing they will ever be able to have a mission about is their power. Their power, whatever that looks like, from money to power, and use any means necessary to get that. And we know there are some people who come from families that have been so indoctrinated from that trauma and that authoritarian way that they are not treatable. They're not changeable.
Yeah.
They can't create what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
And if they become leaders, and I think the hardest thing for me is to have all of this experience and wisdom and to see when somebody is in that state and that there is absolutely no way you're going to be able to change that.
Yeah.
That's an intrinsic part of them now that has been so deeply ingrained that they can't do the work you're talking about.
Yeah.
You got any advice for me for what I'm going to do with that? What I said, are you okay with how I worded that and what I said? Do you believe that there are some people? Because
but I'm not that person. So I'm finding in the challenge of that person, that system, that group of people, whatever it is what is going to be my response? I want to find out. I got to find my power.
That's right.
Because I'm practiced in my life of giving my power to people, places, and things, leaving me with nothing.
Right.
And that's the blame and the not taking responsibility, not owning your shit.
Yeah.
Right? In that very troubling, challenging relationship, I get to stay sane. This is a very challenging time to stay sane because you're being sort of bounced around. I feel like I'm being rocked. Like the foundations are, I felt the earthquake the other day, and that was like, I was
metaphoric.
like, totally metaphoric. Like this is, a lot of this lately stuff
Every
that's
day
been going
there's
on
an earthquake.
is earth shattering. You're shaking for sure. So I have learned that in those instances where I feel, at least in the moment, powerless, because I'm giving that away, I want to take it back. So how am I going to do that? So I have been doing this in politics for a long time. We're not going to talk about it, but it's the same thing. I want to figure out, how do I innovate? They're not going to innovate. They're going to be who they are.
Yeah.
How am I going to innovate in order to respond in a way that makes me powerful? So when I'm disagreeing and I'm on social media and somebody says something about something in behavioral health or whatever, my first thing, even though that person, I may know them to be somebody you describe, I am going to affirm, because that's empowering to me. I need to rest in my own power. I need to feel it.
So you don't affirm them. You don't.
I respond not like I would respond where I can feel my emotions inside. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Which is how I started most things.
That's right. Well, the first thing I had to do
so it's the opposite of that, because I lose.
Yeah,
I just
exactly.
feel like
and I'm happy to report that when I first started my healing, I said, okay, first thing is I have to stop yelling and I have to stop name calling. Do you know how hard that is for somebody that comes from a state where we call ourselves massholes?
Yeah.
Like we're proud of that. Yeah. So I can't do that. Yeah. That's reaction. Yeah. You're right, though. I get to affirm what I know to be the principles that I live by, and that we now have years of evidence that helps make more community. Yeah. I mean, there are things that are undeniable in terms of our wired for connection, our need and our right to be together and to work together, and to disagree in a way that we at least keep a foundation. Yeah. If the foundation isn't strong, you're not going to build anything on that.
Well, I want to react to this in a way that says, what is the best antidote to all of this craziness going on? And that is back to building community.
Yes.
Building it from, what's the organizing principle? Well, for me, it's family. Because I am in a family. I'm in the laboratory. I'm doing the work.
That's right.
I'm taking my own advice. And I can see the power in it. I can see it in my kids, the way that they respect me, trust me, seek my counsel. They trust me.
And they go out and they will start to use that same foundation and principles and way of being. Yeah. And then when you say the word family, I don't know how many times I hear this in my nonprofit that I work with, Merging Vets and Players. We're a family here. We're a family here. We use that term all the time. That's right. So you're right. It's an organizing principle. Yes. And it doesn't have to be blood.
No, family of origin, family of choice, doesn't make any difference. Family is ultimately, when it's working the best way, is a place where you feel safe just to be you. I didn't grow up in a place. I don't think most families, that's the challenging thing in that organizing principle, is to allow people to be who they are. That's where it should exist. That should be the safest place. But every family I've ever worked with, there's been some, that typical sort of story is, the father and the son. The father has this value and it's education, and the son is like, no, I'm not going to go to school, right?
Right.
So we've got this power struggle, and that's supposed to happen. It's not supposed to all be Pollyanna. It's not all supposed to be,
That's true.
Rainbows and butterflies. It's supposed to be something that makes you grow and make you understand that consensus is not agreement.
Yes.
That's not what it is.
When I say to someone, I get it, it doesn't mean I agree with you. No. It means I understand it.
Yeah.
I understand your perspective. I understand the point. And I get it.
I don't agree with you, but you have a right
Exactly.
to
I get it.
do that and say that. I've done that with my daughter. I don't agree with you, but you have a right to make that decision. Because I will talk with you all day, every day about choice. I don't talk to my kids about capability.
No.
I talk to them about choice. Remember, it's about choice. That's what your life is when you look back on it will be, dotted with all your different choices you made.
Sure.
So understand that whatever choice you make, there's a way to amend that choice. It's not the final choice.
Right.
It's just a choice right now. And what I'm saying is that we have a choice right now to build consensus around principle, ritual that makes sense to the idea of us being collaborative beings, not competitive beings.
That's right.
And that's a big thing that's going on right now because we've got loneliness epidemics. We've got parents who are in more stress than they've ever been in their lives. We have the most stressful parents on earth right now in America. Probably everywhere, but the Surgeon General released this whole thing about, parents are stressed. And kids are talking about their stressed parents.
And I always say, I appreciate we use the word stress because it's a quick way to put a category. It's fear and sadness to me. It is unwitnessed, unprocessed fear and sadness. And fear turns to anxiety and sadness turns to depression. So if fear and sadness are in the present, anxiety and depression are started in the past and now they're fucking up your future. They're present and your future. So when I say stress, I always say, tell me what you're afraid of and tell me what you're sad about right now. Because then we have something specific we can start to deal with. I
love that.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I always say there's 3 primary emotions. Just like there's 3 primary colors. There's red, yellow, and blue. And how do we know that? Because if I want purple, I got to have red and blue. If I want orange, I got to have red and yellow. And if I want green, I've got to have blue and yellow. So I don't know how to make red, can't make yellow, can't make blue, but I can make all the others with that. So for me in my life, it's joy, fear, and sadness. Happiness is just when I get, in the collaborative moment, I might get the ice cream I want. I might not. Joy is when I'm dancing, when I'm able to bring out my joy from me, for me. That's it. I get to do that. And then fear and sadness it's the basis for everything. Jealousy, you mentioned the word jealousy earlier before. That's fear and sadness. I'm fear that I'll never get that. And I'm sad that I'm never going to get that. Right? They got something I want and everything. And then unwitnessed fear and sadness turns to anger. So every time I'm irritated, frustrated, angry, rageful, murder, suicide-ish, all of those, I know that I'm dealing with something in the past that's happening in the right now that is bringing up that old fear and sadness. I know it.
Thank you for that.
I feel so much better. First of all, I've been just wanting to do this for such a long time. From the first time I met you, from what Kirsch's told me about you, from following you. And now that you're a Jack Reacher fan, I'm not quite sure what to do about all that.
It's a whole other level.
So let's keep this going because I have a feeling that what we could do is we literally could help families and parents. We could actually invite parents. We can do that with them. We can tape this. We can put it out there because we don't have all the answers. We're just willing to explore all the possibilities and what's right for you and to make sure they know the power is within for them to do this.
That's right.
So you don't have to call us and say, fix my kid.
No.
Fix my family. We go, no, you got it. We'll just help guide. That's all we can be right now is we'll walk alongside you.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yeah.
Fair enough?
Agreed.
Let's do it.
I'm in.
Be crazy well.